right, I am Jay, and these are
Oh man, hopefully healthier Jack.
good.
The really excited for Halloween, Katie.
Me
Yeah.
too.
And I'm wearing my Return of Vampire shirt that I just got. So.
If you guys didn't know, Katie's really into cats.
And horror.
What is with cat ladies
So-
these days?
Cats and horse.
My kid is a cat lady now. Every time he comes over here, he just wants to be near your cats and just be like,
Because cats are amazing.
Because I got black cats. and
Cats
black
are
cats
He
amazing
likes kitties.
creatures,
I don't
so-
understand.
Cats are horrible
You guys
creatures.
can
I
be
don't like
haters.
them.
I know,
don't
I
care.
agree, they're
Cats
terrible.
are amazing.
I don't like cats, yet I adopt cats. Anyhow,
Topic.
on to the show. So, in the 70s, there was a big saturation of books and novels focusing on people being terrorized by unseen or unexplained forces. I mean, throughout history, we have stories like that in general, but in the 70s, it seemed like some of the best novelizations and books came out. Books like The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, Ghost Story, Poltergeist, and even books based on true stories like The Exorcist or The Amityville Horror. And yes, those were based on true stories. We've done topics about them. All of those books were turned into movies at one point or another. Most don't hold the same gut wrench like that it held at the time as another book based on real events called The Entity. Now, The Entity would become a bestseller in the 70s, but the film wouldn't be released. It was started in 81, but it wouldn't be released until 82 in Europe and 83 in America. Now, Barbara Hershey was cast as the role of Carla Morin, and I think maybe the delays in the release from when it was conceived to when it was actually put out had to do something with the content of the film itself, because if you've read the book, you understand why the book would be a little bit, questionable to try to put on film at the time. So in the film, Carla's haunted and repeatedly essayed or sexually assaulted by an unseen entity, hence the name, The Entity. A team of researchers show up to help her and find evidence, and the film just gets, at the time it was pretty shocking. Some of the special effects even got the film nicknamed The Entity. One in particular stands out. They actually built a prosthetic of Barbara Hershey's body with a moving chest and everything, an apparatus, and her head would hook into it. Kind of like how they did the chest burst scene in Aliens, but a little different. And it actually showed a handprint going through one of the fake breasts, and it looked really realistic. Even seeing it now, I giggle because I'm a fucking child. But, people started calling it The Entity. So it was speculated and talked about by younger audiences, which horror, that's really who's going to eat up horror movies as younger audiences. But the film itself, it depicts some pretty brutal stuff, at least for the time it was released. As a kid, I had no idea what the hell I was looking at, but I knew it shouldn't be something that was happening. Obviously, nowadays, seeing stuff like that's pretty tame, but back then it did cause issues. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. As I said, the movie was based on a real event, so this is what we're basing it about. This is what our tonight's show is about, is what the book and the movie is based on. So, on August 22nd, 1974, in Culver City, California, in a bookstore, Dr. Cary Gaynor was at that bookstore discussing what he and another Dr. Barry Taff do for work, which is parapsychology. And when a woman was with her friend a couple aisles over, heard it, she walked over, introduced herself, and said, "Hey, my house is haunted. Like, I got ghosts." So they booked an appointment after talking with her. And about a week later, Gaynor and Taff, the doctors, went to her house. Now, they had been working on the UCLA parapsychology lab at the time. It's funny because if you go to YouTube, you can find a video of them from that era talking about what they do, and it's worth watching for a number of reasons. Some of it's a chuckle factor. You'll understand if you watch it. But the rest of it's just really cool because they do talk about this case in general and a couple other cases at the time that they had worked on. The house they went to was a shack on Braddock Drive. And the woman was one Doris Bither, I can't remember, I think it's Bither. She was a single mother of 4, each with different dads. She had 3 boys and 1 girl, and she kept the girl away from the house, which Dr. Taff says later that was probably for the best. The first thing she told Doctors Gaynor and Taff was that she had been repeatedly raped by ghosts. That's a hell of a way to start a conversation, and it was not fun stuff. It wasn't like...
It wasn't enjoyable.
It wasn't something that was fanfic. You know what I mean? This is something that was very traumatizing.
Yeah.
So obviously, the immediate thought from the doctor is that she's disturbed. You know what I mean? But during her interview, Bither claimed that lights would flicker and move around the house. So lights would flicker on and off that weren't just the light bulbs, they'd flicker in the air and move around the house. There'd be banging on the walls, and she would get sleep paralysis, all of those kind of things.
Wow.
Which we hear a lot of with stuff like that. Hey, Justin. So, you know, it wraps around a lot of these paranormal stuff. They're sitting there talking to her, and she's already bringing up, the first thing she says to him is, I'm getting raped by these ghosts. You know, not fun. And then she goes into these other details. But obviously, like I said, the immediate thought from the doctors is that she's disturbed and needs psychological help. And at the time of the interview with her, they told her that there was nothing that they could actually do for her to help her, and that she needed, what she needed wasn't parapsychology, but something else that started with a P. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Taft wrote a large P on the application paper for psychiatric, and he kind of filed it away, you know, like, hey, put it in the cuckoo bin, you know what I mean? Now, that was until about a week later when she called back and said, hey, I got witnesses, dude. I got my neighbors. They want to come talk to you. So there you have it. Now the game changed. You know, she got witnesses. So there were 3 women, 3 neighbors. They were older than Doris, and they seemed more grounded. Keep in mind, they already felt like Doris was a screw loose up top, you know. She was very cryptic and evasive in her responses, but the witnesses weren't. They were independently confirming that they had seen green lights. It would be accompanied by a strange smell. They would see things out of the corners of their eyes with increased frequency. And these are all like explaining this stuff without being cryptic. They're being straight up and forward. Witnesses also claimed to have seen by their attack that she'd be thrown around the room like a rag doll. And during one of the attacks, when one of her sons intervened, a teenager at the time, his arm was broken by one of the attacking spirits.
Ooh, thanks.
Hey, Chatty Cathy, are you handling the social media over here? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, he's commenting.
Upon returning to the house, all of them are sitting in the kitchen talking to Doris about what's been going on. And suddenly a skillet jumps from the cupboard a few feet away, and then things went downhill. So that was the first thing they saw as paranormal investigators on scene at this house. So prior to that, they had just had hearsay. Now they're getting evidence. So they bring in researchers they set up. You know, they brought in a lot of people. So then there would be like strange pops of light. They tried to block out windows and door frames and stuff where like light would come through to make sure it wasn't from there. The lights were weird though, and most of what happened like in her bedroom or the main room of the house. They were like, the lights were, they said 3-dimensional and foggy like and green in color. So it was like a light, the light was like a 3-dimensional mist and it was colored green. Which is,
Weird.
you know, you'd hear swamp gas.
That's really, yeah, I mean,
Aliens.
that's kind of what it sounds like. It just sounds like a swamp gas thing to me. I mean, it's just weird to me, like, but there's the thing, though, that, if you remember, like, Ghost Hunters, like, when Taps, before they really became, like, you know, they were trying to make money off it, and they started, like, faking stuff, they did mention, like, leaks, gas leaks and stuff like that would cause hallucinations.
Oh, yeah.
Being near
That's-
heavy
Yeah.
electric fields, like, if a box wasn't covered, it would mess with you.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
And,
though.
yeah.
Because there's, I mean, that would be the first. I mean, usually when we talk about hauntings, that's the first place my mind goes as someone who's worked in like, you know, home maintenance and stuff like that.
A lot of things have
Think
been
that.
debunked because of those things.
Yeah. Or well, some of it's not really debunked per se, but it's just not paranormal.
It just
So,
turns out to be
yeah.
something explainable.
Yeah. So there would be all these lights and stuff. The lights are 3-dimensional. They photographed the lights. And some of the photographs, like one of them, they have an arc of light going over and around Doris and some in her home. So this is one of the famous photos of the arc going over. Now, there could be a number of anomalies in photography that could cause this. I'm not sure which one there is. If Justin's still watching, I know he could put some insight in it as a guy who knows photography really well. But back in the day, I mean, this is pretty impressive. You have a bunch of people there. I mean, maybe it's a double exposure. I don't know. But that's
Well,
one of the famous
yeah.
photos.
You know what it reminds me of? Like that, because I assume the light over her or whatever is what they're talking about, the halo.
Mhm.
Because if I remember correctly, on old film and stuff like that, to get
Mhm.
effect, like movies would get that effect by what they do is they'd scratch the film. It was either before development or during development. They'd like scratch it.
Yeah, but that was on purpose.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. is-
These guys don't really have a reason to lie about it. They're both very
Well,
passionate, well-known investigators.
Here's the thing, though.
At least half is.
If you think about like in the modern day sense, like look at, like I said, I just mentioned Ghost Hunters and Taps where they started faking things.
Yeah.
After a while, if you find nothing, what's the point of even looking?
Okay, so Justin says that could be done by one of the glass pieces in the lens if it's built poorly. Yeah, and that's the thing. They even said one of the cameras they used, they had an infrared camera, and it broke after the first picture. It just stopped working. And then they used another camera. They had like some kind of Kodak instant use camera, which are, not the most quality cameras either. So that's kind of what I thought, Justin. Thank you. I think that's kind of what you're saying, right? So when interviewing one of the teenage sons, the cabinet doors would open and slam on their own, and pots and pans would just go flying out all over the place. So that's kind of crazy. And this is all during the investigation, and they had quite a few people there for this. They would also talk about earthquakes happening in the house. Now in California, if anybody has lived here for any amount of time, that's not super weird. What's weird is California doesn't give you your own personal earthquake to your house. It's not like, here's a Happy Meal just for you, shake your house a little. It's all around you, but this was just that house. That said, the house had been condemned by the city a couple times, and it was basically a shack, so you tell me. Now, Bither would summon the entities by cursing and screaming, and this is in front of 20 plus researchers, but it was so they could see the activity. And they captured a lot of orbs and crap, which orbs is never evidence to me at all. By the time Gaynor and Taft showed up, the SA stuff had stopped, so there wasn't any more of the whole graping going on that had been done and gone with. But they were able to capture images of the fog. I couldn't find any of the pictures, and the guy's website is now defunct, so I don't know.
What does that mean?
No longer working. It's a 404.
Oh.
Okay. And I wasn't able to find any pictures that I could link directly to this without it possibly being fake. But I know there are real pictures of this. I saw some in YouTube documentaries that I watched, things like that. And I believe in one of the books it shows some of the photographs. But other than that, I was only able to find that one with the Ark and a couple others that were kind of questionable. But they captured not just the images of the fog and the lights, but at one point, with everybody there, the light fog thing, manifested into the shape of the upper body of a very large man. Like, you can see the muscles, everything, very, very clearly to all of these people.
Oh, muscles?
Like,
I thought you meant like me. I was like, wow, I feel targeted. Then you said muscles, like, oh, never mind.
We are paranormal. Because those aren't real. So, anyway, so when this happens, the entity popped out of light, like a light bulb exploding. The light was suddenly gone. Taft stood up and said, hey, everybody stop, don't talk, don't say anything. Stop what you're doing and write down what you just saw without talking to anyone else. And 20 plus people in the room, somehow all of them wrote down the same thing without deviation. So Dr. Taft, he goes on to say that pretty much rules out the electromagnetic field hallucination thing. Because he thought that as well, because you don't hallucinate in unison all the same thing at one time. You might have derivatives of similar things, but there was nothing. Well, there's 20 plus people, almost 30 people. I think it was like 27 people, 25, 27 people. They're not all writing down the exact same thing unless they saw the exact same thing or they were prompted. And there was nothing prior to that they talked about, said, hey, there was a man's physical image that shows up. It was green, gassy light that they were all seeing at one time. That many people were seeing, and there were eyewitness accounts of this. Now, at one point in the bedroom, it was ice cold. And they started a seance because I guess they were bored. Fucking, what else are we going to do? We're in a haunted house, let's start a seance. And they put on, yeah, right. And they put on.
It's like when somebody bringing out the Ouija board.
Ouija board, the Ouija board. As Jack had a health issue, had to go home. He's going to be talking to our live stream and chat, but you guys won't see it because we're here on YouTube.
Yeah.
So anyway, at one point, the bedroom was ice cold. They started a seance because they were bored. They put on music, and the lights and the phenomena would increase depending on the reaction they had to the music, which is where we left off, basically. So we left off at the poster board. That's next. So they had the poster board on the wall with the photographs. Kind of like what you would do is, like a police thing. They put up the evidence wall or whatever. They had a poster board with all the pictures they had taken, all the stuff, and what room it happened and all of that. They were asking the entity to do something. So they said the duct tape was ripped from the wall and the poster board flew and dinked Doris directly in the dope. She'd hit by a candelabra at one point. A fuse box ripped itself off the wall and hit her. So, I mean, this is in front of people. So Doris is definitely getting the blunt of all this situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good. You guys chat it up in chat. Now, according to Doris's sons, when they had lived in Santa Monica prior, small things would happen there. It's when it started. The banging noises, the lights, things would randomly disappear, which happens in my house all the damn time for whatever reason. All of that was before moving to Braddock Street, or Braddock Drive, that house. The Braddock Drive house was, like I said before, a shack, basically. It had been condemned more than once by the city. I think they said 2 or 3 times. And 2 days after they moved in, Doris is there doing something in the house, and a knock goes on the door, and this elderly Hispanic woman is there and says, "This house is evil. You need to leave. You should not be living here. Bad things happen here. It used to be a farmhouse," which I don't know why that is a bad thing, but apparently this woman thought it was terrible. It didn't go into any other detail. I couldn't find any.
Must have happened there. That was bad.
Yeah, and I didn't. I should have done some research into the house itself and looked at it, but I didn't, because that would require more effort than I wanted to expend today in my 2 hours I was doing show notes. It's actually more like 4. Anyway, so when that happened, though, that started the escalation into the small things, into the much worse things that we saw or we talked about. And in the book, in the movie, the entity is defined as a ghost that attacks her. But Dr. Taft disagrees. He feels that the evidence in the situation leans more towards a poltergeist situation than an intelligent haunting. You know the difference, right? Everybody knows the difference by now.
I've watched Ghost Adventures since I was in high school, so I know.
Fair dinkum, okay. So he says the evidence comes from a combination of things. His evidence, the reason he thinks this, comes from a combination of evidence. Doris was followed from Santa Monica, not just to Braddock Drive, but also followed to the next place in a place called Carson as well. She seemed to have a rough family life, and obviously things weren't great with her and the men in her life, or she wouldn't have 4 different kids with 4 different dads. Not judging, I'm just saying usually that means something's not working out in the relationship factor. Including she had some serious tensions with her sons. Dr. Taft seems to think that she had more of a psychokinetic sensitivity, more than most people, so she'd be more prone to the poltergeist kind of activity when under great duress, and that she was in fact the source of all the phenomenon, and that her internal fantasies would somehow trigger the onset of the activity, kind of like a psychokinetic delirium is how he said it. If any of that makes any sense, then you are top of the class, because I have a hard time with it. I get it. It takes me a while to process. I said process when I should have said process. Just, leave it. It's been a long night.
Were you British?
No, not even a little. So Dr. Taft again saw Doris in 1983 after the release of the movie. And at this time, she had claimed that the activity had stopped altogether. However, according to Javier Ortega from ghosttheory.com, he runs that website, or he's part of that website, he'd spoken to Doris's sons, and they claimed that it started well before the Braddock housing. It continued for a very long time after. So, it hadn't stopped when they thought it stopped, or when she said it stopped. According to Dr. Taft, the son who came up with most of that info, also contradicted himself a lot. So that either lends towards him not remembering things, which makes his story kind of questionable anyway, or that he was just being dishonest, which also brings fallibility to his story and what he says on the whole subject. Now, Doris did pass away in 1999 when she was 58. Her official cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest. Now, the doctors, they say they have no idea why, though. Why that happened. Her heart and lungs just stopped. They just did. They just quit working one day. That does happen. There's a variety of reasons to cause that.
She was young, too.
Yeah, but I've heard other reports that she was also never sober.
Oh.
Now, I only found one report saying that. So I don't take that to mean me saying that she was a lush or that she was a drunk. That's not what I'm saying. That's just one report to maybe consider as to why her organs just stopped working, her heart and lungs.
Yeah, if she was always drinking, then that could happen, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there are deaths that are totally unexplained. Sometimes people just die for no reason. Medically no reason. I mean, obviously there's a reason.
There's obviously some kind of reason, but
yeah. In her case, the reason was her heart just decided to stop and her lungs just decided to stop. That's a pretty good reason to just die, I guess.
That's weird, though. There had to have been something else going on.
Well, I found so with an autopsy, you'd think that if it was like a punctured lung, because that'll happen a lot, is a lung will get punctured and wrap the heart, and the heart will constrict, the lungs will stop working, and the heart will stop working. Or if someone drinks too much and they're detoxing too fast, sometimes their lungs stop working and also wrap the heart. or their liver fails, and then their other organs stop working.
Well, if she was used to drinking a lot and then stopped, she could have died from that.
Yeah, but usually it would be your liver that took you out first, and there would be some evidence of that.
Yeah.
This is just straight up cardiopulmonary, it just stopped.
Hmm.
They didn't say anything about any other tox reports or anything like that. So, yeah, and Dr. Taft did say something on Art Bell's show, Midnight in the Desert. You know, Art Bell of Coast to Coast AM fame. He had a show for a long time called Midnight in the Desert that he started after he left Coast to Coast. And he said something to Art Bell that I think is worth thinking about. Dr. Taft did. He says it's more amazing that it was coming from her than if it were from a ghost. Now, I'm on the fence about that, though. It's worth thinking about, but I'm definitely on the fence with that thought. Yeah, I would think that any of it's pretty interesting. Maybe not amazing considering the whole rapey ghost thing. That's not amazing. You know, I don't think that's amazing.
No, that's gross.
I know there's people that claim to have sex with ghosts. R. Kelly did.
Yeah.
I think
Anna
Kanye
Nicole
West,
Smith.
Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah.
There's the chicks that marry pirate ghosts and divorce them and then remarry them and then marry themselves and marry a bridge. Whatever. There's a guy that's married to a doll and now has babies with this doll. So I don't know, man. The world is a weird place. I'm not saying it's
Well,
not true. I'm just
This
saying
tells
I don't
me
think
that
this is amazing.
it's easy to find a ghost that wants to be with you, I guess.
I want
Apparently.
100% blame Dan Aykroyd for that, by the way. 100%.
Oh, Ghostbusters, yeah.
So many electric. Never mind. Anyway, so moving on. I don't really know what Carrie Gaynor's thoughts are. As far as I can tell, he's now a hypnotherapist. I think he was then too, if it's the same guy. There's only one Carrie Gaynor I could find that looks kind of like the guy and has similar mannerisms from the video that I saw. Anyway, even the same hair for that matter. But he helps people quit smoking. So that's cool if that's the same fellow. I don't know what his thoughts are on this case right here though. There's nothing current that I could find. Now, overall, the investigation went on 10 weeks. Nearly 30 researchers were involved. I think it was like 25 to 27. So a novel, obviously, and a movie were made. And then decades of conversation and theories about what took place happened. The house is still there. It's at 11,547 Braddock Drive in Culver City. It's had a serious makeover since then, lots of different paint jobs. Don't go there asking for tours. People live there, okay? You can drive by and see it from the street.
Oh, at the house?
Yeah, where the
Oh.
real events happened. It's still a place. It's still there. You can drive by and see it.
I feel so bad for people that live at places like that.
Yeah.
That were like in movies or historical places or whatever.
Yeah, and this wasn't the
Like
one in
the
the movie.
Amityville Horror House. Can you imagine the people that live there?
Oh, yeah, but that,
Oh,
you know,
so-
they bought that knowing it was famous set. You
Yeah,
know? This was
but-
actually the scene of what happened. This wasn't even the movie set. This is the house where it actually had supposedly
The
happened.
actual, yeah.
Yeah,
place.
where the event
So I'm
actually
assuming
occurred.
people go by and want to take pictures and stuff.
Frequently.
Yeah.
There's actually an LA ghost tour website that I found it on, which,
Really?
I mean, you can tour anything in LA.
Oh yeah, well it's in LA, so that makes sense.
Yeah, Culver City is
Yeah.
in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole thing, Kitty Cat?
I don't know. I feel like maybe she had something mentally wrong with her.
Yeah, what do you think about all the people that had seen things, though?
I think it could be real. I mean, I'm a believer. I know you're on the fence.
So you think that
But
part of it's true and part of it's embellished, or that
Yeah.
she's nuts? She's crazy and the stuff is happening around her makes it
doubt
even
that
weirder.
a ghost raped her. I just
All the ghosts I know don't do that.
why would a ghost? I mean, unless the ghost was like when the ghost was a person or was alive, that he would. I'm guessing it was a man, right?
Well, the apparition that showed itself was of a man, so
If
of a
he
male.
if he was a rapist when he was alive, then I guess. Do they know anything about him?
They don't know. No, they don't know anything about why this would even happen.
Yeah.
But
so
here's the other part of it. Like, what if it wasn't a human ghost at all? Because I don't believe in human
it
ghosts.
might have been a
in the
demon
least.
or
Some
know.
evil creature. Because I've heard that. I've heard many stories about people being assaulted by entities and beings in that direction.
that aren't human. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you have people witnessing her getting tossed around the room.
Well.
You know, I don't
Yeah.
know. So there's a lot going on. If it's real, I would almost say more like psychokinetic, which I'm also not convinced is real.
I would say it's some kind of like possession thing.
Possession thing. I think you're,
possession,
I think you were probably right about the whole she's crazy kind of thing. Something's wrong with her, and that she's probably adding more to it. Or maybe it's feeding off that delusion as well. Maybe something is going on, and it was feeding off of whatever delusions she was going through.
Yeah, I think she probably did have experiences, like paranormal experiences, but I don't know about all of that.
Yeah, and I do have a
Yeah.
picture of the house, in case anybody's interested.
Oh, it's different looking than I thought.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it to look kind of cute.
It's cute. It's like a cute little like cottage.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I looked and there's like 15 pictures of this one house being the house. There's also other pictures of a dilapidated building with nothing like it that is marked as this house that isn't. So good luck finding the real stuff, guys.
Yeah, that doesn't even look like old, really.
Yeah, I mean it just looks like a little bungalow.
Yeah, a little house.
Well, yeah, it was a little shack.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like I said, you could visit it. I just wouldn't because it's rude to go there.
Yeah.
People go and visit houses like that all the time. It's got to be infuriating to the owners, especially if they didn't know what they were getting into when they bought it, because there's no reason. No one died in that house that they know of. There's no reason to list it.
Yeah.
I've seen signs recently of realtors putting not haunted or haunted on the houses to try to
God.
sell it more. Like, it's a ploy, guys. It's a ploy to get you in there. None
It's
of
a
them
money
actually
thing.
think it's haunted.
Yeah, it's
like,
a money thing.
then you got the clown motels for sale. It's a little different. That's just creepy.
Who typed that?
And she says, I worry so much of what people say is not real. They have vested interest in people believing in ghosts. She was probably smoking the swamp gas. I'm not sure which
Is that
person. One of our people here was saying that. I don't know if it was Jack or somebody else. But, one other person could comment as Vanishing Gates, and I don't know if it's him or not. Anyway. But yeah, so, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about it. She's, like I said, passed away, so we'll never know from her perspective what, happened.
Look at the comment that just popped up.
You literally just showed the internet a house with a ghost who will actually touch them. You have ruined these people.
Who's commenting that?
It's got to be Jack.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jack. Okay.
Yeah, look, dude.
I don't know who
Yeah,
else
Jack.
it would have been.
I already said, bro. Don't go there and harass these people. You can find this information. It's public information, dude.
I need a jackal.
I put the disclaimer out there. Don't go there. If you guys go there, you suck. Just drive by and take a picture and
People
move about
can
your merry
look it
way.
up and find it.
You can find
it.
pictures
they
there.
They could
Just
have
don't
looked
go
up
knock
the
on the door.
address,
And don't send the guys a bunch of pies. There's one house like people throw a pizza on their roof all the time because of a movie.
Breaking Bad.
Is that
We
what
were
that
just
is?
talking about Breaking Bad earlier. That's a
I
scene
still
from
haven't
Breaking
seen that.
Bad where he
Was it really?
throws the pizza.
That's
on the roof.
funny that's what would come to mind because
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
It's in New Mexico. The house from the show. That's funny. I didn't know people did that.
I just know people did it. I didn't know it was Breaking Bad. That's funny. I just heard.
Yeah, it's
heard
a
about
scene
that.
from the show.
Who will not need the creepy middle-aged man naked in their yard? Look, dude. I don't make the shit. I just shovel it. Okay. Anyway. All right. Well, I got some editing to do on this episode. We're gonna hang out and do the live maybe for a few more minutes after the show's over, and we'll move on from there. Anyway, I'm Jack, and this is Katie.
Cat.
And Jack is. Did I say I'm Jack?
Cat?
I'm not Jack. I'm Jay.
No, you
Jack
said-
is homesick.
I don't know. Did you?
I don't know, man. Anyway.
No, you said Jack is.
Yeah,
something.
I'm Jay, and this is Katie Cat, and that's Jack on the internet. They're talking in chat who's homesick.
Yeah.
Down the hatch. All right, we'll catch you guys on the next show.
Bye.
We're going back to the live stream. So start watching that on Facebook. Oh, yeah, if you haven't yet, like, follow, hit the sub button on the YouTube, and leave comments down there. We need engagement.
Yes.
Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your social media. Share it on your Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Tell people about Vanishing Gates. And send your erotic fan fiction of Jack and, The Rock to, or Vin Diesel. It was always Vin Diesel. I did literally say I was Jack. I know, okay? Give me a break. Yes, I'm talking to the chat, guys. That's what I'm doing. Anyway, tell VG your stories at gmail.com for any cool paranormal stuff you've had happen or topics you want discussed, or just vanishinggates@gmail.com. All right, we're going back to the live stream.